Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, Films and Stuff. This is an episode being recorded on a Friday, unusually. Should we consider this an emergency episode of Films and Stuff?
I don't know if it's an emergency, but it's certainly, let's call it a reactionary.
It's like FEMA mobilizing in advance of a hurricane, right?
Yeah. Like it's Margot's in trouble. Let's not beat around the bush.
That's where it starts from, right? What episode number is this of season 3?
This is episode 4, I think.
Episode 4, season 3 for All Mankind. And we're in a three-way space race, that is.
Yeah. The good kind of three-way.
The good kind of three-way, or not really. Where we've got Russia, just generically called like Spacecraft 94, right? And we've got the Phoenix, which is Helios Corporation, which is some type of hybrid Elon Musk
space station.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a wannabe Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos type company. And then, of course, you've got NASA under the ethical guidance of Margot that has whatever.
And now maybe Ellen Waverly, right?
Yeah, so that's I think where we pick it up, which is it was a three-way, and at the begin. And by the way, I thought this was actually kind of not a great episode, although there were some good turns, and at the end it got good. But I thought, to be honest, the graphics were pretty childish and thrown together at the last minute. I was expecting a little bit better out of this. The graphics just did not really resonate with me.
Yeah, I don't know if they stood out as much.
Yeah.
It seems like this is the episode which is going to make things spicy in the next week. This is kind of like the setup to kind of get all the noise out of the way, because I'm expecting some kind of fireworks next week. And only because, so just as a quick recap for our listeners in case you've forgotten.
Let's recap contestant by contestant, yeah? So why don't you take it with NASA first? Where's the NASA craft in this episode?
So in this episode, NASA looked like it was going to be in second place to reach Mars, and then they pulled out their trump card by deploying in a very, you're right, the CGI for this was a bit shabby, but
that's the right word.
In a trump card that nobody saw coming, they deploy some wicked solar sails, right? And they're able to propel themselves past Helios's, the Phoenix, and they're now in a position where they're going to definitely be the first of the 3 to Mars. And by quite a wide margin, by 8 days. So that's where Helios is. You know, it looks like everyone's in communication with each other. There's like a friendly rivalry thing going on there. Helios was supposed to be in first place. It looked like they were going to be in first place. These solar sails unfurl, and then they get a speed boost from it based on, the sunlight. And that's where we see Helios. Oh, we also get to see a little bit of Dev's dark side, right? When it looks like, when you see that NASA is going to overtake them and be the first, he destroys that monitor in a fit of rage. And then this is where Dev loses me. And this is where, and I think this is because maybe you and I are experienced, guys, we've experienced business in the real world. And we know of people like Elon Musk and how SpaceX and, Blue Origin and all these space agencies or privatized space agencies work. And more importantly, who runs them. And can you, in any universe we have in this multiversal theory of mine, could you ever imagine a universe where Elon Musk isn't calling the shots, but instead leading like a commune-style town hall meeting to decide like in a very democratic way what should or shouldn't happen?
I have to say, my friend, as you and I know from our time at business school together, I can. And that is the Zappos example. You remember Tony Haish? Rest in peace. And that's how that started. It started exactly the same way, where he wanted this horizontal organization, and everyone who left that company said, everyone's supposed to be equal. We're all supposed to be able to like share your thoughts and all this kumbaya stuff, right? And their argument was, but everyone votes the way this guy wants it to go, because if you don't follow him or do what he wants or support him, that eventually you will be ostracized and you will be out.
So it's kind of like gaslighting in reverse, right?
Which
is that it's like emotional blackmail in a way to say, hey, you do what you think is best.
Yeah. I mean,
if you get sacked later, that's a pure coincidence.
I mean, I feel it's the worst of two worlds, right? Because he puts a lot of very difficult decisions on people that probably shouldn't be deciding, right? And it's kind of like, well, this went badly. You guys decided that it's on you. This is what you wanted, right? But at the same time,
it's
when it's
a way
something,
of absolving himself of any responsibility.
Yes, exactly right.
But as we always do, we make the parallels to SpaceX, to Blue Origin.
Yeah.
And
in that sense, you're completely right. There's no
and Jeff
way.
Bezos do not have the reputation of being hands-off guys.
Yeah.
These are guys who are famously angry billionaires who, when things don't go their way, they're liable to flip the table and burn bridges everywhere they can.
Oh, angry is a big word.
So
I mean,
I do not see someone like Elon Musk, for sake of argument, holding a town hall, especially when it comes to this kind of situation, and then letting a bunch of randos, and with all due respect, I'm sure they're all very wise engineers, blah blah blah, but they are just a bunch of rando employees make that decision. And then on the flip side, what does that say about the people that are working for him, that they say, we don't want to save them, we want to be first. We don't want to help our fellow men.
But before we get into ethics and morals, what would you do? What would you vote for?
To not have this stupid system in the first place where we get to vote. I mean, with all due respect, private businesses are not democratic organizations.
Fine, I get it. You don't vote.
But yes, I vote to save the Russians, of course.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I really do. Or at least, let's put it this way. I really hope that that's how I would have voted in that situation.
Would it change if you were working at Helios compared to if you were working at NASA?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Which is why I was so shocked about Margot's decision as well.
I have to say, I don't know if we've known this before this vote. I don't know if I'm as benevolent as you, and it has nothing to do, for the record, for nationalities or public or private. But I have to say, I mean, in the case of Helios, you do work for a company which does have shareholders. You owe a duty to his shareholders. I know we're getting into kind of corporate ethics and things, but this country that is very well funded, rushed up to launch something. They probably could have landed on Mars. They wanted to recklessly speed up just for the sake of vanity. They tried a risky maneuver. It went badly. I mean, I guess it probably depends on the situation, where if it's super easy and you just go and you get them and you bring them in, yes, of course, you don't let, another human just suffer and die. But I have to say, if it's really well, now we can't achieve our mission, all of this was for nothing, no return on investment, we're going to save people. Is there any guarantee that they can be saved, that we're not going to be? I have to say, I would probably say, unless it's really easy to do, I would not have voted for this. And that goes whether I'm a private company or whether I'm NASA.
Yeah. I think that's probably, I think It's probably naivety on my part to say that.
That's why you're a good person, Pete. That's why you're a good person.
Maybe, but that could also be why I'm a dumb guy, right? In the sense that you're absolutely right. If you look at it that way, this comes down to basic private corporation, let's say rules, or, modus operandi, which is our goal is to maximize shareholder value.
Yeah.
And does me sabotaging, or not sabotaging, but purposefully destroying
helping my competitor.
Exactly, right? Whether it's a competitor or not is irrelevant in this case, only because you are now putting yourself in a position where you physically cannot complete the mission that you're meant to be doing, which therefore theoretically destroys the idea of shareholder value, right? Or at least certainly shareholder value in the timeline that we're at. Yeah. That concept, I think, is changing in the 2020s. Because, the CSR element, the corporate ethics element, that plays a lot into shareholder value as well nowadays. But you know what? Dollar for dollar, you're probably right. I think any corporation would have actually probably seen this as a boon, as an opportunity to be like, hey, NASA, if you want me to do this, fine, but I want you to pay me back plus 15% return ROI on everything that I'm the opportunity cost of saving these guys.
Yeah. So where we are is Helios voted, so to speak. We put air quotes around voted, and they decided, look, we're not going to do this. And then we see
hold on. By this, by the way, we haven't mentioned it. So the Russians, in a last ditch effort to try to become the first, do an extended burn on their nuclear powered engines so that they can propel themselves into first place and maintain that lead.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, while doing this, it becomes clear that the engines have overheated, have shut off. There's potentially a nuclear leak on board, and it looks like they're not even going to make it to orbit, but they're going to skip past Mars's orbit. So they have to have a rescue mission within the next 72 hours, or the Russians are lost forever in space.
Can I say, maybe this is where the episode, why I didn't like it. Although I have to say I like the action a little bit. I didn't like the graphics. I thought the graphics of the spacecraft, as you said, were pretty shoddy. And also, I mean, we're talking, this was a multi-week or month journey, right? We're talking literally millions of miles. And the way that they kind of cobbled this together saying, oh, the Russians are going to burn their rockets for 7 minutes and then beat us by 3 days. And they have all this information in real time. And then they know, oh, wait, the rockets didn't burn long enough. Something's wrong. I found that was just so compact into a few seconds or a minute of television action. They just didn't let it breathe. That should have been, I thought, a much more dramatic thing. And they played it out like it's a 100-meter dash and not this month-long journey, to Mars.
I think they do that also because the average viewer probably doesn't realize the magnitude of, space travel. And so for them, they're just like, there's a problem. Here's a 1-minute description of that problem. Now let's focus on what that problem means for both missions.
Yeah.
Rather than focusing on that. So I'm with you. Yeah. I get that.
I thought it was just too compressed.
Glossed over.
Yeah, compressed and glossed over.
It seemed weird that they were making all these crazy maneuvers and, that it resulted in only beating them by a margin of days rather than months.
And I have to say,
it seems like almost not worth it, if that makes sense.
I agree. And I have to say, one of the things that I thought was also pretty unrealistic, considering how long this mission is and the risk, that no one was really taking a long-term view. Just the mission itself was quite risky for everybody, right? And it was kind of at the beginning, Ed's like, well, we did our calculations, we won. It was counting his chickens before he hatched. And for me, that was just such a giveaway. I can't believe you're putting the mission accomplished banner up there now. Like, obviously
Yeah,
something.
didn't Ed say he was like, let's pop open the champagne
I mean,
or
it was
something?
just-
And I was just like, what? That's a bit too early, right?
As an astronaut, especially, this is such a long journey. So many things could go wrong, right? I mean, there could have been, I'm just making things up, a solar flare. There could have been asteroids. They could have lost an engine. Like, so many different things could have gone wrong. I was really surprised that everyone was taking such a narrow view. Just because someone was a little bit in the lead, they probably would have had different trajectories and different factors, and their approach to Mars and the surface would have been different. I was surprised that it wasn't kind of like, I was surprised they didn't temper it a little bit more, and they really treated this like it was a 100-meter dash and someone was in the lead, and well, that's it, it's over, right? And then Mars 94, right? The Russian craft, like, okay, well, all we have to do is burn our engines for 7 minutes and then we'll win by 3 days. Like, okay, but what if, Sojourner's sail breaks? What if anything could have happened? I was just really disappointed by kind of how flimsy that was.
Yeah. When they unfurled the sails, my first instinct was one of those sails is going to get punctured.
I thought the same thing
by a comet or a meteor or something.
I thought the same thing.
And that was going to have to force the Helios crew to basically disregard orders and save the day.
Yes.
And by the way, that's the other thing, is the fact that the Earth crew can manually disable the ship seems like such a gross oversight.
Oh, really?
In the sense that I get that they could control it from there, but then to prevent any way of any of the astronauts on board from controlling the ship, I feel like that is so weird, because if something goes wrong, all of a sudden you have a bunch of astronauts who are on this ship heading to Mars, and they don't have any control over how that ship behaves because the controls are locked to a bunch of guys who are sitting in a control room on Earth, right?
So, I mean, this goes back to, I guess, the prior episode. Remember when Ed was kind of touring the, I don't know, whatever the captain's nest is, right? And he said, hey, I've got to be able to take control if there is an emergency. And Deb was like, okay, sure. Well, let's redesign it. But obviously he put in kind of like a backdoor in the software, which
fail-safe kind of thing. Exactly.
I mean, I don't find that unrealistic. I find it like very aggressive by Dev and his team. But I have to say, I didn't think that was like unrealistic or crazy.
Oh, no. I'm by unrealistic, I meant it's an oversight in the sense that I can't believe that Ed wasn't spending the rest of that episode trying to figure out a way to break that failsafe.
I imagine that's going to be the next episode, is that you're going to see
it has to be, because
Ed and his team trying to and then it's basically a rogue spacecraft, right? They're going to say we're going to disable it. We don't need any,
because what we're seeing now is the curtains are kind of dropping. The facade is dropping. I think it's clear to me that Ed, or at least the implication is that Dev is, we're getting to Mars first, and I don't care who has to die to do it. And what I imagine is going to happen, because, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The ending of the episode, you basically see the Russian ship in full meltdown and almost actually colliding with the US NASA ship.
I thought that was a great scene, though, by the way.
I have to say, immensely good sequence.
I thought that was, in terms of the action, in terms of something being actually a little bit graphic without being gory graphic, I thought that was an exceptional scene. Yeah?
Yeah.
You showed the one guy kind of like smushed between the two colliding craft. You saw the Russian cosmonaut. Yeah. And then I guess at the end, it seems like that cable kind of whips that other guy, right?
Yep.
So
cracks his helmet.
So if we're counting crew, assuming those 2 U.S. astronauts are dead and the one cosmonaut is dead, that means they took on 3, and that it would be Danny and what's the lady's name? I want to say Cynthia. What's her real name? Kathy.
Oh, that's Cynthia Wu. Yeah, in the show.
Yeah, what's her real name in the show?
Not Karen.
Kelly.
Kelly. Yeah.
So it's Kelly, Danielle and the defector, now U.S. astronaut, former cosmonaut, right?
That's right. Plus the 3 ships. And remember, they were saying there were only there wasn't enough space. So the space issue kind of resolved itself.
So they gained 3, they lost 2. But if you're looking at now the Russians, first of all, the Russians, it's 3-3 in terms of cosmonauts, astronauts, but it's actually 4-2 in terms of Russian nationals, right?
Yeah. And so here's where things get dicey.
It's actually 5-1. Expats versus Danielle, who's actually the only Native American,
American.
Yeah.
Right. So where things get dicey now is the reason the Russian craft got into trouble was their quote-unquote nuclear engine.
Here it goes.
Became problematic. The crew
why?
was like, listen, we can save them and we can take their fuel because it's the same kind of fuel. Well, there's red flag number 1. Why is it the same kind of fuel? Oh, is it because Margot may have given up the schematics? And the second thing is that even if they don't figure it out in this episode, like because of this episode, I think what they're building up to is that the Russians are going to get onto the American craft. And eventually it's going to come out that, oh, well, the Russians seem to know a heck of a lot more about how our engines work. Yeah. Which we alluded to in the past, which was all of a sudden, like, they're trying to repair. Now the ship is in full repair mode. Yeah. And then the Russians are like, we can help you with the engine. We know how to work on these. We've got the same engines. And then the questions come up. Wait a minute. How do you have the same engines? So like and it becomes, then this could also be, involved Ellen Waverly, because Ellen Waverly's been like fighting to get the NASA program funded, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden we find out that Margot committed treason. Yeah. So maybe Ellen Waverly gets impeached.
Can we go back to one thing? I mean, you and I despise Margot perhaps more than any other character that we've had, right? Yeah. One real blunder that Margot made, and this is made by someone who's a novice, who's obviously never been blackmailed by a foreign country before. Ha ha ha. Right? Like, if they say to her
by the way, caveat, that is not to say that either Ethan or I have been blackmailed by a foreign country.
We're just saying, it seems pretty obvious that if someone's in a hotel with you and says, hey, for the lack of just to be blunt about it, they say, give us the nuclear schematics or we'll kill this guy, right? And she says, okay, here they are, don't kill him, right? What does she think's going to happen next week? It's going to continue endlessly, right? Hey,
this is the classic situation,
right? We're going to kill the guy unless you give us this. Yeah. Well, wait, I already gave. Yeah, I mean, we'll kill him every day. We don't care. Like,
it's like, when you get like pictures of incriminating photos, and the guy's like, all right, I want $100 this week.
Yes, and
then you think it's over, and he's like, oh, by the way, I want $100 next week.
Unless she took Sergei home and put him in her house, right? Unless he leaves, and you know that he didn't leave. Like, she's not just blackmailed once; she is endlessly blackmailed. And not only is she endlessly blackmailed, there's a continuing record of her knowing, subscribing to that blackmail, right? Like, so her decision is, in the heat of the moment, compassionate towards Sergei, but long term, he's dead anyway. And she's just taking everything down with it.
And we've never been in this situation, but I feel like it's better to cut the head of the snake off as early as possible. Yeah. Bite the bullet, go to the FBI, tell them that you've become compromised. Okay, worst case scenario, you go to jail, or worst case scenario, maybe you get fired, you don't go to jail, or they ask you to help and you don't put yourself in a position where you're risking not only your job or your life, but also the national security of, the space race, whatever it is. I mean, maybe I'm, again, being a little naive, but I feel like the most obvious thing would have been to be like, pick up the phone, call up the FBI and tell them this is exactly what's happened. And she seems like such a pragmatic person that I thought that's exactly what she was going to do.
I mean, she's usually such a, I think the
emotionless,
the cognitive dissonance, to use your term, is that usually she is so cold and calculating and making the decisions. And we've seen her for literally decades, not exhibit any common decency. And then one Russian dude who's her friend that she shared one kiss with and she was ready to lift up her skirt for, now she's throwing not just her career, her reputation, the entire program, the world's respect and she's just torching everything. And, she's seen this, right? She saw this exactly with her mentor, the German SS guy, right? When we saw
the Manhattan Project guy.
She saw exactly how damaging this could be. It's just shocking to me that she's put herself in this position and she's still so nasty. She hasn't lightened up. She hasn't softened. I mean, the way that she is speaking about Ellen's never done anything to her. She's been super decent to be like, she's one of them. She's just a bureaucrat. She's blah, blah, blah. Like, really disgusting behavior from Margot. I'm really disliking her. I hope she gets not just sacked. I hope they just send her to Russia. Yeah, I hope they space her. So anyway, I guess the question I had for you was, when you saw the engines lit, you kind of knew that there was going to be a problem. You saw it like flickering in this very crappy kind of image. Did you think that she perhaps gave them bad tech? Like she kind of sabotaged their tech? What was your feeling?
Man, that would be, for as much as I dislike Margot, I have to say, and I didn't even, it didn't even enter my mind. That's how much I dislike Margot. But if that's the case, I have to say, Ethan, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because if she's secretly been feeding them bad intel, and maybe that's why she was like, let Helios take care of it, because she knows what's actually happening.
That's pretty... She's got balls. Yeah.
That's
I gotta say.
Pretty on... No, I don't know if it's on brand for her, but in terms of her, her chess moves, that's on brand.
That's a baller move. I agree.
But which then, unfortunately, that will turn out to have bitten her in the ass because now... She
killed her own crew. And she undermined NASA, right?
Right, yeah. Exactly.
But yes, it could have played out that, Helios was directed there. But I found she was so out of touch with what she said, to...
Exactly.
Nationalize the company, for some, right?
I think that would be maybe not the most elegant way of getting her out of any kind of potential trouble, but that would be the most appropriate way given what we know of her intelligence.
Yeah.
We haven't seen her really be cunning in terms of how she operates. Mm-hmm. We've seen her be very smart, but we've never really seen her play chess against her opponents. In this regard. The
only time we saw that, remember, early in her career, she had some file or something, remember? And she played that for a promotion.
That's right. She held that. No, and that was the file I think she got from her mentor.
Yeah.
Something like that. There was something. But that was the only time we've seen her do anything cunning. In fact, this is something that I would have expected out of Ed more than I would have expected out of Margot. This would totally be Ed's playbook, which is to say, fine, I'll give you whatever information you want, but it's all going to be wrong. It's all going to be dirty information, and it's going to cause you to have a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So we don't think that she sabotaged their engines. We think she gave them good engines, and that's why she let it slip, right? Which was caught, but it's not yet going to be a damning omission. But she said, hey,
says that if it's the same engines, right? But then she finishes that statement. If it's the same kind of engine, then this is what's going to happen, she says.
Yes.
Almost as if she were anticipating that.
Yeah. I didn't think it was going to play out. When I saw that NASA was going to do the rescue, I didn't think it was going to play out as I mean, I didn't see the two ships colliding. What I anticipated happening was actually when like that person was filming or like taking images of like basically their gas tank.
Yeah.
Right. I thought everyone was going to look at those and be like, huh, those
look exactly the same.
Yeah, that's exactly. And they're going to be like, okay, well, good news. We can just take their fuel and bada bing, we're back on our way to Mars.
Yep.
Good news.
Yep.
Cheers, cheers all around. But everyone was going to, in ground controls kind of could be like, huh, that's a very strange coincidence. What's going on here? Let's look into that more. But I thought they were just going to take the fuel. They'd be on their way, and then things would get like a little bit juicy down there. I did not see the crash, although it doesn't seem to be, at this stage, we don't know enough about the structural damage. Possibly they can still do that plan. They can still take their hydrogen. They can still refill. They can still go on to Mars. They're going to have a crew that's...
They have to at this point. They have to at this point.
That
because you can't have it be a Helios wins unanimously. Or uncontested rather. It has to be a 2-person race at this point.
Yeah.
I think you get a little bit of so there's still a little bit of drama on Ed's ship, right? Because you see that some of the crew were making a little bit of fun of Danny's parents, the movie.
Trace.
Right? They were reenacting the movie.
Wrap it tight,
scene
Trace.
Between Gordo and Trace.
Wrap it real tight.
So we see a little bit of conflict there. Plus, there's always that potential conflict of Danny versus Ed that I still think is what they were kind of leaning towards. I think Danny, in a fit of rage or in a fit of anger, is going to say something and let slip.
Oh yeah,
something like that's going to happen.
It's going to be like one of those comebacks, like kind of like your wife, or that's what your wife said. Something
stupid, something
that's what
dumb,
she said.
And it's just going to.
Karen's got a birthmark like that on her ass.
Something like that, right? And then I think on the NASA ship we've got. Oh, and speaking of Karen, did you notice yet again she's got a look of ennui on her face in this thing? Like, honestly, she's got like resting ennui face.
Oh man,
like,
you're so tough on Karen.
Oh, I am 100% anti-Karen.
No way. How?
Oh, yeah.
What has she done in this episode to get you angry?
I was just like the whole time. It's not this episode. I think it's just every time I see her, I just want to be like, get her off the screen.
This episode, I felt like she was on Ed's side. Like she was supportive of a rescue mission.
I agree. She was, and so was our man Bill. But
if she was on your brand, she would have been actually pushing Dev. If we really wanted to make you angry, Dev would have been... yeah.
She would have been like, no, we've got to take this opportunity to really seal the deal.
And be like, Dev, this is your legacy. You work so hard. You sure you want to do this? Right?
Yeah.
That would have gotten you like...
That would have been like, you can
Pete would have been so angry you wouldn't even be able to hear this. He just would have been like screaming like hyper pitched, like only like neighborhood dogs would have heard him. He would have been like just raging.
But I would have also secretly been happy because I was just like, she's doing exactly what her character would do.
I have to say, I agree with that. I want her to be Homelander. I want her to lean into being a bad guy. That's her brand. I have to say, I'm with you. I wish she would have been the bad guy and convinced Dev. Dev could have been like, I'm not really sure. Let's put it to the group, And it would have been better if Karen would have been, come on, Dev. You got to take control. This is your legacy. You told me. You sold me. We got investors, blah, 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 blah. I didn't give you this hotel so you could like help people. That would have been a better speech. And then Dev's like, yeah, you're right. And if she would have said, lock Ed out, take control away. And Dev's like, I gave him my word.
He's liable to go rogue on you, so you should do this.
And then,
because I know him.
Oh man. And then Karen gives Ed the news. Ed's like, what a bitch. And Danny's like, don't call her that.
Don't call her that.
Boom.
Son of a bitch.
Boom.
And then
that's
it all
the
comes
episode.
tumbling out.
That's the episode right there.
That's the daytime Emmys version. And now for a word from our friends at Time Pop.
This is Time Pop, a podcast about time travel movies. Each episode, we take a deep dive into a time travel film and talk about all the insanity and madness that happens when you travel through time.
Tell our new fans some of the episodes they could listen to right now.
Okay. The Adjustment Bureau.
See You Yesterday.
The Time Machine.
Live, Die, Repeat.
Primer.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Avengers
with
Endgame.
many more time travel movies in our future.
Join me, Ari.
Scott.
And Des for
Time Pop.
What else was there?
So I think...
Yeah, so sorry. And then, so
Yeah.
we're going to see, the other thing we're going to see is now we're going to see tension on the NASA ship, because I imagine what they're going to do is, with the Russians' help, they're going to repair both ships. They're going to get the sails activated. They're going to figure, and they're going to have excess fuel. And with that extra fuel, they'll be able to do the same maneuver that they were planning on doing, which was the controlled extended burn.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're back in the race.
Yeah. So do you think all these other cosmonauts, I mean, at first I feel like there's going to be like some bullying of the defecting cosmonaut who's now an American. But I would imagine by the end of the episode, Danny turns them all and they probably all defect. And they all become like Americans.
Yeah, I can see, I don't see much of a Russia versus USA thing as a long-term thing.
Yeah.
And only because, especially Danny, of all of the astronauts we've seen, has the most street cred.
Yeah.
Right? Danielle was the one who shook hands with the guy she's the one who went rogue for NASA and said, I'm going to shake hands.
Yeah.
She understands the cultural impact. She was imprisoned there. So, or not imprisoned, but she was held hostage there. So I fully imagine that Danielle is going to be the one who convinces them to say, hey, listen, you want to defect, you defect. You don't want to defect, you don't want to defect. Up here, there is no USA, there's no there is no Russia, there's only astronauts. There's only Earth people. We have to get to Mars. We have to get to Mars, and let's make it a Team USA and Team Russia versus the private corporation race. And then it's on.
Yeah. What do you think about North Korea? Somehow North Korea is coming.
Oh my God. I took a note about that.
They would.
I took a note about that because that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about.
Pete, I love it when you get excited. They put that in there for some reason, right? That was
and you know what I think it is?
Yeah.
Can I tell you what my crazy conspiracy theory is?
I think they're already there.
Yeah, well, so they were like, they launched an unmanned probe.
Yeah.
I think that what they did was that probe actually contained like 3 or 4 North Korean cosmonauts or whatever they're called in cryostasis, so that it seemed like that it was an unmanned probe.
Oh, that's
and then
good.
they get there. So they get there, and there's already a small colony set up by these the North Koreans, because they've specifically pointed out, and they showed you the video of the rocket launching, and you're just like, come on.
Yeah.
They,
there has
the guys
to
at
be a
Apple are
reason for
too
it.
smart. They would not have shown you that unless there was a specific purpose, right? Or maybe it's like a weapon station that they've built so that it can fire rockets on anyone coming towards Mars. It could be one of anything, but my imagination told me that they put some guys in there in cryostasis because they couldn't figure out how to keep them alive for so long, or in a regular ship. So they built a rocket which had less moving parts or less fiddly things that required. Put them in cryostasis, and then they get there with all their stuff.
What do you think? I'm just going to throw something crazy out there. What if the U.S. State Department would try to bring sanctions against Apple for portraying North Korea in a positive way? What would you think of that?
What, in the real world?
Yes. Come on.
They would never do it.
Just imagine.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just saying, let's imagine something crazy. Of all the countries that are portrayed in a very, very positive way, they have given the U.S.'s arch nemesis, the most taboo of countries, for the U.S., and given them possibly the most positive press.
How? How is any of the things that have happened so far for North Korea positive?
I mean, they've got a space program. They may actually be the first country on the moon. I mean, considering where they are now, that's dramatically.
That's true.
Right?
I will say that's true in the sense that they've got a space program.
Yeah.
But, this, I think, harkens back to the alternate history of it all.
Yeah.
which is to say, hey, listen, we're going to give them a space program, but it's not going to be the best space program because it's still North Korea, right? And they went out of their way to also show that their space program exists, but it's terrible. Yeah. It was the cause for the Helios space station to fall apart.
Because they could not, if you're just looking at like, I mean, in our society, right? I mean, even something that is fictional, can be fodder for, groups complaining about it, right? So for example, I mean, if you look at the nuclear powers in the world, if it was either India or Pakistan, most likely the other country would have complained to Apple saying, why did you choose them, to have a space program and not the other,
right? India and Pakistan complaining. I can't see the U.S. State Department complaining. I feel like that would just be like, are you joking? Like, this would be so unconstitutional for us to do. And like, we're not even going to bother wasting our time. It's an alternate history. It's a fake. This is all like a fictional universe. What do we care? You make whoever you want to do whatever you want.
Do you think North Korea is using it as internal propaganda?
Oh, I bet you they are. I bet you. Or let's put it this way. I wouldn't put it past them. That's the only potential knock I would give against Apple TV, which is that this is something that you inevitably know someone at the North Korean propaganda office is like cutting and pasting into their own thing.
Look, we're on Mars. Montage. We're on Mars first.
That's the only potential way that I can see that happening. But the reality is that I don't think anyone really cares. It would be such a... And I think the way the U.S. kind of sees North Korea is that there's such a small problem. In the sea of problems that the U.S. has with the rest of the world, North Korea represents such a small problem that they're not even bothered with them.
I think after when there was a time when we saw kind of this montage, right? And they mentioned North Korea, we thought, with revisionist history, that's kind of interesting, But the fact that they mentioned it here, to me, like you said, it is absolutely a giveaway that they are going to have a very, very prominent role.
Yeah. It's either an excellent double bluff. Yeah. Or it's it's Chekhov's rocket ship. It's bound to happen that they didn't emphasize it, but they said that they sent an unmanned probe a few months earlier. Yeah. I don't think that it was unmanned.
I agree.
And I think that few months head start is going to be enough time for them to put together a small working colony or defense station.
That your last statement might be right. They might have actually kind of like sabotaged it or booby-trapped it. And it may be, like you said, okay, I like your idea of they're all cryostasis, so we couldn't detect that they were life forms, a la the droids in A New Hope. But it could have also been that they've sent, I don't know, make up your gas, right? Mustard gas or something crazy. And you land there like, no way, it's been booby-trapped. We can't colonize. We can't get out of the rover. We got to launch right away. There's all this like dangerous stuff, that someone's intentionally sabotaged the atmosphere, the climate. That would be kind of cool as well.
I fully expect in episodes 8, 9, or 10 that the North Korean situation becomes prevalent, becomes apparent.
Yeah. Or maybe it actually comes and it like smashes like the food supplies, right? So
absolutely. There's so many things they could do with it. Right. Is that because the gas thing I like, but it makes slightly less sense because everyone's walking around in self-contained suits anyway, right? Yeah. So it's less likely to affect anything. Where I see it happening is either they become the first and set up their own colony and become the quote unquote. Remember we mentioned this last season as well, is we think that there's going to be an element of somebody either beats them there or there's going to be a third country involved. Yeah. And we kind of swept it under the rug because we thought that instead of a third country, now they introduced the Helios thing. So it was going to be a private versus public race. But I still think that a certain element of nationalism will play into this now. So I imagine that North Korea either setting up a colony or setting up a small like defense station, which kind of like actively tries to shoot down any landers or prevents any landers from settling there, is totally on brand for North Korea.
Yeah, like a SAM system. Do you think eventually For All Mankind is going to morph into Expanse, and this is how this is how Mars becomes populated
Oh,
for
man.
Expanse.
Can you imagine if this were like somehow like the
What if
the
Apple and
prequel that we
Amazon
never knew
Yes,
about?
It could be. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it is the unintentional prequel to Expanse. How did Mars become populated? Well, we're about to see.
Or even for Foundation.
Oh yeah, Foundation was on Mars. Wasn't
No,
really
but
on Mars.
remember
Yeah,
there was
it Earth.
one of the guys was specifically talking about how
Yeah.
we came from one.
Yeah.
We theoretically came from one planet
Yeah.
called Earth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows?
So I think Margot's got to be out at some point.
Has to be like this charade has to
Yeah.
stop. I think that what they've done is that in the last few episodes, especially, they've made her so patently unlikable.
Yeah.
You don't normally do that unless you're telegraphing a heel move.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like what we're seeing with Butcher in The Boys,
Oh yeah.
which is you're making him be such a jerk, and she became such a jerk that at some point, I mean, you're talking to the guy who was giving her grand piano leeway, and she's gone the exact opposite.
I gave no grand panel leeway.
Exactly. So I think that what's going to happen is that she's, you know, the facade gets dropped, she gets disgraced and gets kicked out, or I mean, I don't see her defecting, but my God, can you imagine if she defected?
So do you think that? I think I actually feel like a defection is a more likely storyline. That she calls Sergei and says, "Hey, dude, I saved your life. You've got to save me." And he says, "Let's finish that kiss in Moscow. You're always welcome here. Get on a plane and we'll put you in charge of the agency here. You and I will run it together." And then Ellen says, "I'm going to put my husband as the head of NASA."
Maybe.
I mean, that's the only play I think that Ellen has.
I just don't like Ellen as president. Not because I don't think she should be. It's just, I want to see more of her.
I agree.
Playing an integral role somewhere.
I agree. And she
And
can't go anywhere. A president can't go from president to being like, well, now I'm just going
to become a director of the
Yeah.
JSC. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
it
I
just
agree. Yeah.
At best.
She should have lost the election. It gave the show
that's what I
more
thought.
optionality. And
at best, I
Yeah.
see her becoming like an advisor to
Yeah.
either Helios or to JSC after she ends her presidential
yeah.
run.
I think that's, I mean, as much as I love this show and I've ripped on the crappy graphics, but the one thing that is not being rectified is that we are not developing more characters.
Exactly.
We
And
need someone. I mean, in Ed's crew, no one has really stepped up. Danny, no. Yeah. And
not yet. And the same goes for the NASA crew because
and
they get
Danielle's
introduced
crew?
and then all of a sudden half
Yes.
of them get disappeared.
Kathy got something now. She lost two of her people. So it's Kathy or Kelly, sorry, Kathy's was her name. It's Kelly and the Russian cosmonaut, right?
Yep.
So those two are the only people on Danielle's team that we're going to get to know more.
And I imagine we're going to get a lot more activity from the Russian guy because there's going to be some element of nationality involved.
So the one blunder I caught, and I told you about this, was so Ellen just happens to be there. President Wilson happens to be there when, the thruster goes kaput, right?
Right.
And then she's like, "Hey, let me call the ambassador." Like, dude, first of all, you're the president. Why are you getting involved in this little stuff? And two, why are you calling the ambassador? Like, you're the president. You should be calling the president if you're going to call anyone. Why are you calling the ambassador to be like, "Hey, what's the update on your spaceship's engine?" Like, I'm like, come on, that's not
I don't know what
presidential.
the protocol is. I don't know how protocol works, but I'm with you. I would imagine that under normal circumstances.
And I mean, it wasn't like that ship was going to run into their ship and they were worried about it. It wasn't causing any damage to them. It's like, look, that's your problem.
Exactly. It was turning into what clearly
Yeah.
became a humanitarian mission.
Yeah.
But with no imminent danger to anybody.
So I thought that was also kind of like,
except the Russians.
kind of like a blunder. But I like that Margot tried to convince President Wilson to take like some really like dramatic action So I would have expected, like, she would have said, like, you got to call the ambassador. You got to call someone and, like, get them to do this or try to do this. Like, I thought that would have been, like, a little bit of a more realistic approach than the president being like, hey, give me the phone. I got to call the ambassador. Let's find out what's going on with their vehicle. Like,
although maybe Margot does that because inside she doesn't want the NASA crew to find out that their engines have been caught. So she's like, go nationalize Helios, tell Helios they have to do it. If they want to have their operating permits, they got to do it. So she's trying to cover her tracks.
Anyway, I'm excited where this is going to go. I didn't think this was the best episode. I thought that just kind of like the timing and the pace were a little bit off, but I agree. Like, no one
was a good setup episode in that sense. It was, you're right, a little bit light on substance otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say it wasn't exciting. It was, but in the sense that in terms of, moving forward, slightly less. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this Margot situation plays out. And I do say the Margot situation because it makes sense. I don't expect them to avoid that for much longer.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I agree. Okay. I think this was a good semi-emergency episode. We got a lot off our chest. We had a lot to say. We're both united in our deep disdain for Margot. We are completely split on Karen, who I think is lovely, and I only want the best for her. And you obviously want her to be sent to a gulag,
penal colony.
You want her in a
on
gulag
the dark side of the moon
next to Margot. You want those two to be roommates in a gulag. Whereas I think that there should be a lovely trophy or a lovely statue of her outside the Helios headquarters.
Terrible. No, I think there should be a statue next to Trace and Gordo's with her and saying "home wrecker" for no reason.
Aw, Trace.
That's right. I said
the Trace and Gordo statue is kind of creepy with like all the duct tape on it, right?
They look like mummies.
I mean, yeah. I just thought like they could have had them like in their spacesuits, like holding their helmets and holding it could have been like a little bit more.
There was like, no need for it to be so accurate.
It was so gritty,
Glamorize it a little bit, add a couple extra inches of height onto both of them, make them look better. It's fine. It's a statue.
Like when you show a basketball player, it's like a basketball player like dunking or like jumping or something, right? You don't show that person like getting hit by a pitch or something.
Wait, let me interrupt you.
Do it.
I can't believe I forgot. This is another note I took. What about Danny's brother, who's like this hippie watching everything, and like they now think that there's a conspiracy theory he hooked up with other hippies?
I have to say, I don't know where that's going.
Neither do I.
I hope this is not going to be an ongoing storyline and we're going to have to deal with this like paramilitary like group that's trying to like sabotage and cause damage and stuff. Like if they're just picketing one episode, like I thought it was enough. But I have to say like Danny's brother, like I liked the way that he treated the reporter. He's like, no, I'm not giving you any comment. But then I wasn't happy with how he kind of like listened to this wild conspiracy theory and kind of seemed like he didn't seem to reject it. I have to say that the show did a very good job of not telegraphing which way he's going, but I hope he rejects this. And I hope that kind of like, I'd like to see him like cut his hair, put on a suit and be like, you know what? I want to work at NASA. Give me a low level job. I'm ready to be serious. My brother's in space. Like my parents did this. Like, this is my heritage. I want him to be the good guy that gets more involved in a nice way and redeems himself a little bit and gets his act together rather than this guy who's just going to be like a nut job and picketing and I hope not.
Yeah, like this depressed, angsty kid. I'm not a fan.
I'll be a fan if he can turn his act around.
If he turns his life around, sure. But, again, I think this is there are more intriguing people or characters that I would rather see them introduce.
We need more. That's what I'm saying. We need more people. There's a problem that we haven't had more people introduced,
And where's Margot in all? Not Margot, sorry. Where's Molly in all of this?
Yeah, we haven't heard from Molly in 2 episodes.
I know. I miss her so much.
I mean, the only way I see Molly coming back is if Ellen gets rid of Margot and she installs Molly.
That's brilliant.
Boom.
Can you
Boom.
imagine if Molly
Boom.
becomes the head?
Yep.
Oh, that is wonderful. And Ellen already has a good relationship with Molly. They
Yep.
were in space
Yep.
together.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it, Ethan. Well done. That is exactly what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see Margot suffer. I want to see Molly take her job because Margot was the one who kicked her out.
Yeah.
And it gives a little bit of tension in the workplace because everyone knows that Alida is Margot's like go-to person.
Yeah.
And Alida at the moment is very neutral. So does she become Margot's defender? Does she go with the program with Molly? Oh yeah, that's good. I like that.
All right. Let's push for that. But we still need Molly back is good, but we still need, to be honest.
Oh yeah, we still need some fresh faces. I agree.
And
hopefully the Russians can do that, right? With the new cosmonauts.
Yeah.
And we haven't met all of the crew on the Phoenix either. So maybe there's some.
No one on the Phoenix though, just by kind of like, I mean, we met the guy who takes the urine bags to the gardener. We met the gardener.
Yep.
We met, kind of like this scruffy looking dude. And then this lady with a very short haircut. Like no one was. And then we met kind of the lunch crew that was making fun of Danny's parents. We didn't really meet anyone
but
who's
all kind of non-memorable.
Yeah.
No one who stuck out.
I mean, no one is like, to be honest, none of them were like groomed, like kind of handsome or pretty. Like you could see like they would have like it would have been better if like the person who's doing like the whatever kind of hydroponics vegetation they have, right? Like Ed goes in there to inspect it and it's like this really beautiful like horticulturalist and they start this affair, like put some, right? Put some like drama in there,
Yeah, I'm not sure where they go with this in introducing new characters.
Yeah.
It has to be more of the space guys because otherwise,
Do you think we're getting? When I think of this though on Helios, I mean Helios somehow I guess is growing their own salad at least, whereas NASA I guess is just bringing like the MREs.
MREs, yeah.
So I mean this could also kind of portend a problem, right? I mean whether we're reading too much into it or whether they've really like telegraphed it, they do clearly show that they're growing their own food. I mean this could also be an issue, right? And maybe this is where the cooperation comes, which is hey, our system's not working anymore and NASA, we got to borrow your food. Or vice versa. Or they say, hey, we ran out of food. We got another cosmonaut. He's a big eater. Like we need to grow some more Caesar salad, which by the way, did not look like a Caesar salad.
Not at all.
I've seen a Caesar.
It looked like bean sprouts.
Yeah.
Almost.
Like I've seen a Caesar salad before. And first of all, Caesar salad isn't just like green. Like there's croutons, there's sauce,
sometimes chicken,
like,
anchovies, dressing. For the love of God, there was nothing in there. It was just a bag of greens.
I agree. Like
I thought,
how stupid are we? That's not a Caesar salad.
When she said Caesar salad, I thought that was code for like marijuana. I thought that they were growing weed on there. Like that could have.
That would have been a great episode,
right? Where you're just like, okay, well,
How come my mind goes to HR staffing issues, and your mind goes to? But that's a very good storyline. Hey, where's my salad? Oh, we're not making salad anymore. We've converted it to like a weed repository.
Something, right? I don't know. I just thought that would have been like, I thought that was where they were going with that first when he was talking about Caesar salad. And then you see him actually eat it. And I was like, oh, well, that doesn't look like Caesar salad. It doesn't look like marijuana. What's the point?
Like, how stupid are we as an audience? Like, that's clearly not a Caesar salad.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're a lifesaver. Like,
fine. I mean, and it was also like, it was less than like a handful. I was like, that's the smallest salad I've ever seen, period. That's crazy.
I mean, it shouldn't have been in a plastic bag also.
Oh, yeah. That's why I thought she was using that as code for drugs, because it was like, it looked like a baggie.
How many people are in this crew? It is a hotel.
15.
15?
15. Yeah, there were 15 crew members. I remember him pointing that out in the last episode.
Oh, yeah. 15 souls. They were going to add 5 more souls.
They were. Well, they had, exactly.
Yeah.
That was the point, was they had the space for it.
Man, that one person getting crushed, I thought that was so graphic. I thought they were going to get out of the harness.
Again,
yeah.
like you said, not in a gory way.
The opposite of the boys.
Tastefully.
The opposite of the
Very
boys.
tasteful. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Right. And yeah, because they telegraphed that, right? Like you see him playing around with the carabiner. You thought that, this is going to be a situation where he gets lost in space by choice.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to, or do something like that. No, he just, you see him fumbling with it. He's not able to get it open. And he gets resigned to the fact that, actually, what's surprising is both of them get resigned to the fact, one getting crushed and the other whipped in the face by that tether.
I mean, I guess that person could live, but I mean, I thought that was a pretty good ending. You just kind of see like your screen crashed.
Crack, yeah.
Yeah. Pete, excellent episode. I really enjoyed talking about this. I mean, how long is this episode? This episode's only 45 minutes, but we talk about it for over an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Why isn't Apple TV Plus following us? They could get some really good ideas.
Maybe we should have, remember? So, like, I think, I can't remember which comedian did it, but after The Walking Dead, they had like a panel show sit down and talk about the episode called Talking Dead.
Oh, man. They do this. They did that on HBO after Winning Time. Remember, they also had like...
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I think that they should just hire us.
We should be on the panel.
Stuff.
Yeah. All right. Everyone, thank you for joining. Enjoy this episode. We'll catch you next week when we talk about it again.
Thank you, guys. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.